I think the dream for this integration has been around for quite some time. 50 years, the Arab Maghreb Union is maybe 25 years, but really nothing happened, nothing accomplished, nothing achieved so far. And probably we are far more disintegrated today than we were many years ago, decades ago. So clearly there's a very fundamental problem, there is a fundamental issues that we face throughout this time, and clearly one of probably, I'm going to look at some of these obstacles in different categories. I mean, clearly the first one is really, it's the political obstacles. We have been dominated over the last 4 or 5 decades by authoritarian regimes, dictators who they came in power. They are legitimate in many ways. And those people, they don't have a vision for the future. The only vision that they have is how long they can stay in power. And also they are very protective of their powers, and so they controlled everything around them in that sense. And of course, many of them, they have confused the political integration and unification with economic integration. And of course, thanks for the Arab Spring, which has started from Tunisia, we get rid of some of those politicians, at least the obstacles we used to have in Libya, which is the great obstacle called Gaddafi, who dominates everything, and he tried to spoil everything that happens. They are out of the way, and hopefully that right now we are moving into a far more democratic states. So now the interest of the people will become first than the interest of the leader itself. So the political challenge that we have, really it has to do with the political system that we have with leaders. And also clearly we have a very serious problem, which is the interstate conflicts that we have. I mean, how can we integrate a region where some borders are completely closed, and then we're fighting about other territory? I mean, this is, again, I'm sorry, but this is really doesn't make a lot of sense. If we don't even can cross borders between our countries, how can we integrate them economically? Clearly, this is quite a dilemma. It does not clearly work. Also, this integration has been the discussion of the politicians and intellectuals. The people in the street, they don't feel it, they don't see it. It's not exactly what they understand, and always they are introduced to them in such a way that is very scary, that they're going to lose their jobs, people are going to invade their countries, and they take their resources away. So clearly it was, they never been brought forward that this is really going to benefit them. That's going to create a better life for them, going to improve their quality of life. It's going to increase the growth rates in their country. So we kept them aside from this. Always has been the discussions on the top, but did not involve the people in the streets, who really they're going to be the ones who are going to be are benefiting from it, are the ones who are going to be part of this. And so this is the other thing, also the political processes that we have, which they are completely always vague, and they will never be able to, whenever they have the agreements, they're always vague, they cannot be practiced, they will never be implemented, they are confusing, they multi. So this has created very serious issues with that. Then of course, in the economies themselves, I mean, economies of all these countries, mostly they are government-dominated economies. There is not a strong private sector. So clearly, this is not healthy. It does not really help to be able to get the flow of economies across these borders. Again, another thing is, and probably this is the education and language itself. I mean, if we don't communicate in the same language, it becomes a little bit difficult for us to be able to really to cooperate and work closely. Also, it is the issues that we are facing especially in our region here. First, where we started that since we are geographically, we have these 5 countries, then we should have 5-country integration. And if it does not work, then the whole thing will collapse. So clearly maybe the idea, which I'm glad somebody was suggesting it earlier, maybe we should start with a smaller group. I will call it the mini Maghreb, which is maybe, since we have common borders directly, which is the three countries, Libya, Tunisia, and Algeria, and others, they can join later on when we resolve some of the big issues, the major obstacles that we have. And so this might have far better chance of success in this case. Now, of course, there is a lot of reason. There is the great opportunity in this region to have a real integrated markets in this. First of all, if you look at, of course, all the 5 countries right now, today we are more than 90 million people, so really there is a very sizable market, so there's economies of scale can come into fruition, because if we start somebody producing some product, they are not limited to only, for example, for us, it's only about 6 million people, but now it's a much bigger market, which becomes very attractive to be able really to have a major investment in such a, and also at the same time it becomes far more attractive to foreign investment when you see a very much larger market, then clearly and easier to work within this market, then clearly that also will make it possible to invest into it. So these are some of the obstacles and some of the opportunities that we have. And I think, personally, I think at this time we need to start with the smaller projects, because always we tend to let's start big, and then we don't do anything. If we can start with the smaller projects. I mean, we have a serious problem in transportation. We cannot easily move goods around the countries. It's much easier to go across the sea, the Mediterranean, than to come across the borders. Because if we have, and a lot of times in our case, archaic regulatory systems, tariffs, irregularities, corruption, and all of this, which really becomes a hindrance to any flow of trade between our countries, and sometimes even flow of people. And of course now we are going through a time which is a very difficult time, especially for us, with security and borders and the very challenging issues that we are facing every day in our country in particular. And this is also will take us some time to be able to overcome such challenges. It is not going to be a straightforward thing that we will do. Clearly, so clearly, if we start with that, and I think we need to, instead of leaving this to the politicians to do this, come together, I think we need to start with those, probably the business community, the civil society, to start working on this, and then put pressure on the politicians to implement these steps. Because right now, mostly we are dependent on in the past. The politicians, they will meet and they will decide for us, and they go home and nothing happens because they are not serious about it. They don't see the reason why that should be done. And also at the same time, they are completely disconnected from the streets, from the people who are going to do, because we talk about economies and goods moving around. Clearly, I talk about business people, community, who they are really driving this. It is not governments, because that's the case there. So I think this is a time for us to approach this a little bit differently from the past, and we need to make some small progress and make it an example for this. And clearly, we have to become far more creative, more innovative, entrepreneurship, and especially young people who right now they don't have jobs. They don't see really for them there is an opportunity deficit. There does not exist for them this opportunity. You can meet. We're a small country in population, but we have thousands and thousands of young people who have graduated from universities, but there is nothing for them out there. And that's why around today for us they are killing Kalashnikov in Libya. We cannot get them away from their Kalashnikov because we don't have another opportunity for them to leave their Kalashnikov aside and go to work, because they can do things. They feel powerful with that weapon in their hands. And of course to be able to do that, again, we have to invest in the development of the human resources. It is educational system which really can become to the level of the world, the type of quality education, which again, if you look at it, is in most cases it is unregulated, and it is again at least talk from our side of the world, it is not really meets what the demands for the market. We just graduate students. We don't know why they are graduated, why they study the particular field, because there is nothing for them. We don't plan for that. So I think probably might be a many Maghreb integration. And probably I suggest maybe something that we have a point where the three countries, they have a common border there. Maybe that we should become a major free zone area between the three countries, where the city of Igdamas and the areas around us. And we make this free zone, real free zone, where we make a major airport in it. We bring real highways to it because it is in that region. And also make a major investment in it. A bank which will be, again, a unified bank from these countries. So so if we invest in this, I think maybe we can take that step forward, and we can make it an experimental area which become very successful, and we'll be able to create jobs, we'll be able to create opportunities, and also we'll be able to test some of the, can we do this? And of course, we have to learn from the best places in the world who they have established real free zones where are very successful. And of course, all of this will really requires a political will. That means politicians, they have to willing to accept to do this, and also be able to be committed to it, and will be willing to invest in it. But they should take their hands off it at the same time. And so, because otherwise they will not let it be succeed. So I think these are the things that we do. And of course, if we don't create this, if we don't create such plans to integrate our economies and be able to create jobs for the future, then clearly we are going to face serious problems in the future, more than what we have faced at the back. And thank you very much for that.